Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the fourth round of the PHSR M235i Championship. We are back at Hockenheim National. And the complexion of this race seems to be a lot different from the previous rounds in the fact that neither Henrik Andreasen or Mihai Neg has turned up, so naturally, that blows the fight for the win right open. And namely, it looks between Melvin Brandt and Jan Jędrzejczyk. At the minute, they're P1 and P2 in the practice leaderboards. They've been going at it for half an hour. But remains to be seen if they can repeat such an act in the ruthless world of qualifying. So 2.5 minutes left to go of practice. And 11 drivers of the 16 that turned up right now has set a lap time. So I'll just give you a quick rundown of your top 10. So Melvin Brandt, just before we went live, Jan Jędrzejczyk was on the top, sitting pretty, but Melvin Brandt managed to jump him to take first in this leaderboard. Jan Jędrzejczyk is now in second, and he's working to get that back. Will McCone's in third, willing to make a comeback in the fourth round of the season. Jeff Eakett follows him home in fourth, with Fotis in fifth and Andy Darnell sixth. Thomas Obraniak in seventh, Manfred Mamatek in eighth, Tonio Fountain in ninth, and Adam Stewart in 10th. And also Harrigan in 11th, but I mean, I guess that technically made that top 11, but it's whatever. But a man to keep an eye on is Antonio Costa, because he got a purple first sector faster than Melvin Brandt in first, but he managed to drop a second back, unfortunately, in sector 2. So I don't know what kind of lap time he's going to be able to produce, but his first benchmark for the day is good enough for 8th place on the grid. It's going to be 137.5. Not bad at all, but he's going to be aspiring to improve upon that lap time. And Adam Stewart has gone purple in sector 1. About to cap off with sector 2. We'll see how much delta he's got. I was helping him earlier with helping to set up his VR. So I was helping him to set up his VR stuff and all the telemetry and the stock dashboards and all that. It seems to be helping him very much. He's been going quick all day ever since he's got purple sector 1 and he's 3.5 tenths off in sector 2. So he's going to be all the way up there. He might be fighting with Andy Darnell, Fotis, maybe Jeff Eakett, to try and make this a very big midfield challenge for the American driver. Onto the start-finish straight, as Matti Rennian goes into P8. Going to improve on that sometime. I'm having a look at Adam Stewart's lap time. He hasn't gone quicker. He's on P12 at the minute, but he definitely has the capacity to go even faster. But he'll have to do that in the cooking pot that is qualifying. So they'll only have a fraction of the time they had in practice to set their lap time, their fastest lap times again. 15 minutes, half of what they had in practice. And without a doubt, everyone's going to be scrambling out of the pits now to get their lap time embedded into the board, which they will decide their grid position. So that's Andy Darnell going out in front, with Will McCone following him out, and Fotis coming out third. Everyone else pouring out. So first they must complete an outlap, and once they cross the line for the first time, then they'll start being timed for their laps. And grid position is going to be decided on how fast everyone else is. I'm sure you know the drill. Typical quality session. Getting a bit squirrely there, Melvin Brandt. For many of the drivers, the tyres are still cold. He's weaving from side to side to try to get a little bit of heat build up into that hard compound tyre. Trying to get it all the way up to 100 degrees Celsius. And for some of these drivers, depending on how fast they exited the pits, or who they entered behind, they might be getting a little bit of tow, depending on where they are on the track. So that might help them very well. And Melvin stops a little bit to try let the car ahead of him go. Wants to build a slight gap in case he catches him. It's a very good precaution. And now everyone starts their first quali lap of the session with 13 minutes to go. So if you've just joined the stream now, welcome back to the PetrolHead SimRacing the championship is called the PHSR BMW M235i Championship. It's a bit of a mouthful, but you heard me right. And after all, you can just read the title, can't you? So, but in any case, we're back at Hockenheim with your loyal host, Michael Chute. And we're about to get our first waves of lap times coming in here tonight to decide the grid position for the first race. And since Andy was the first to leave the pits, he's going to be setting the first lap time of the day. He's going to be showing up as purple, but that very may well change. It won't be long now before we see just what is quite the pecking order for tonight. And something I should repeat is that Mihai Neg won't be able to make it for tonight, and also Henrik Andreasen also won't be able. He hasn't said anything on the Discord, but he certainly hasn't said anything. But he hasn't showed up yet. Seen him. But those are first 5 lap times on the board, and many more come. It's Andy Darnell in first place with 136.1, Will McCone 2 tenths back with Melvin Brandt 4th, as John Janchik swings in to take 3rd, with Fotis Isaglu 5th, Yuri Kutashvili 6th, and Thomas Urbaniak at the back of the grid with a 138.2. So that's around 2 seconds slower than Andy Darnell's lap time. But I'm sure we're going to be seeing a lot more lap times and a lot more improvements from certain drivers as the session continues. But this is a very good first sign of pace from the get-go. No ramp-up from Andy Darnell whatsoever. Like, once he sets the lap time and a line in his head, he can hammer that home time after time. Well, let's see what the situation is as the pace starts to ramp up for certain people. Like, for example, like Fotis Isaglu, he's 4 tenths back on Andy Darnell's time so far. He's on a green second sector, so he's about to improve his lap time, I believe. From 5th in the grid, let's see where he puts it. Puts it 3rd in the grid, behind Andy Darnell in the 2nd row, alongside John Janchik. But then there's Matthew Reddian setting his first lap time of the day with P2, just shy of 1.5 tenths off of Andy Darnell. A front row start he's going to be very happy with, I'm sure. With Chris Williams in 7th and 9th now, as more people start to cross the line, I can hardly keep up with it. So Jeff Eakin is now in 7th, Melvin Brandt is in 6th for the minute. He just can't quite put it together just yet, but I'm sure he'll get a chance to show what he was really able to do. He was the fastest in practice, you see. So let's hope he's able to replicate something like it. And Fotis is going to set us an even faster lap time. He's on a personal best, 2 tenths off of purple. If he goes just half a tenth faster, he might be able to jump Brennian for second on this grid. It all rests on how smooth he takes this final corner. Sweeping right-hander. So will this be enough for second place, or even third? Let's have a look. And he just doesn't quite get where he needs to be. He remains fourth. And here comes Melvin Brandt with a belter here. He goes on pole ahead of Andy Darnell, and he sets the fastest lap time of the session, which is 1:35 now, 0.8. Oh, someone's been cut off there, very, very eagerly. Jeff Beekett. He won't be happy with that, I'm sure of that. Didn't catch who cut him off there, but that cannot be great. It's a very awkward place to get overspeed down the final corners. And Renian is green as well. He's only 1/10 off of Melvin Brandt's Sector 1. More pace in him yet. And keep in mind, this is the Hockenheim National layout of Hockenheim, not the Grand Prix layout we're so used to seeing. The difference between this and this track and the Grand Prix layout is on Grand Prix there's a massive hairpin that goes like a very, very long run up into a hairpin. That's gone in National, and it's been replaced. That's essentially just been cut out of the track, and the rest has been left as is. And something I should mention is that Will McCombs managed to get into second place, but let's see what Matty Renian has to say about it. He goes into third ahead of Andy Darnell. He's dropping down the order as everyone else ramps up. But the thing with Andy, he doesn't have a ramp up. He's able to settle time, and he's able to do it immediately on command, so he's going to be able to make a position or two here and there off the line before everyone else wakes up. And that's why you have to watch out for Andy Darnell here tonight. Purple Sector 1, by the way, he's got a lot of pace left in him. Just needs to put something together. With 6 minutes left to go. Will McCone goes fastest in Sector 2 at 5 thousandths of a second. Let's see what he does in Sector 3. It's keeping it smooth as butter. 2 corners left, sweeping right-handed for Will McCone. If he plays this right, he could go for pole position here tonight at Hockenheim. He goes wide! And that's going to be the end of it for Will McCone's pole chances this time round. And unfortunately, he's going to have to relinquish. So your top 10 right now is Melvin Brandt in pole, who's managed to set a repeat of his practice time, who set him fastest during that time. And Will McCone's in second, with Maxi Renian in third. Andy Darnell in fourth, who's holding on really well against Fotis Isoglu in fifth, with John Janchik in sixth, with Hiri Kotachville seventh, and Antonio Costa eighth, with Jeff Beekett in ninth, 1 second off, almost exactly, and Thomas Urbaniak in 10th. Rounds up our top 10, with Tonio Phantom in 11th and Chris Williams in 12th. We still have 3 drivers who are yet to make a lap. Those are Adam Stewart, Waco Coles, and Bruno Machado. And they've only got 4 minutes left to do so. I don't think Waco Coles or Bruno Machado will be really interested in setting lap times, because they're not driving right now. They're sitting in the pits. And I'm not sure if they'll have enough time to complete a lap if they tried now. They're putting it very late. But however, Adam Stewart's been trying for that lap time for a while now. Just going off track a few times, so that's all. So Manfred Mamatek, who hasn't qualified yet, is half a second off in Sector 1. And sweeping through to Sector 2 now to hopefully get a grid position for today. So there's 3 minutes left now, so like if you've if you leave the pits now, that'll leave you time for around one more timed lap. Because you need to do at least one out lap to cross the line. But for many drivers, this will be their second last lap, going on to their last lap. And statistically getting very squarely there, 1/10 off of pole position there in Sector 1. These cars are easy to slide and easy to catch, but that isn't necessarily the fastest way around. And it's for that reason why he's 8/10 off of the pole time in Sector 2. And he'll have time for one more lap, I'd imagine, Photosystiglu. So one more to improve his P6, so let's hope he makes it count. With 1 minute 55 seconds left to go, just one more lap left in it, folks. And Jeff Ekit's on a personal best, let's not ignore him. He's got a very good chance to improve from P9. It's only half a second off in the Sector 2. So that gives him scope. If he puts together a perfect Sector 3, he can jump here at Phil, he can jump Janchik, or even Photosystiglu, as Janchik moves up to 6th. And Ekit remains in P9, unfortunately, just wasn't enough. And for a lot of drivers, this is going to be their last lap. As Bruno Machado exits the pits to no avail, because he won't be able to complete his lap in time. It's left it too far on the long finger, folks. Bruno Machado will have to start in the back. Along with Adam Stewart, actually, because I don't think he ever qualified, unfortunately. So there you have it, qualifying is over and done with. We have 13 drivers who set lap times, with Melvin Brands at the tippity top with 1:35.8, and Antonio Costa following him 1/10 behind, or half a tenth behind with 1:35.9. Will McCone's in third, and Matthew Rennian is in fourth, with Andy Darnell keeping it consistent with fifth, and John Janchik in sixth. Photosystiglu's in seventh, with Hiri Kotochville in eighth, holding off Jeff Ekis to ninth, and Manfred Mamatek rounds off the top 10. And now we have 3 minutes left of warm-up, so I'd use this time to just maybe get a cold drink in order. It's not quite the weekend yet, so I wouldn't advise alcohol, but maybe a soda would be nice for you. But what I wouldn't do for some popcorn right now, straight out of the microwave. It's a bit late for it, you know, but still, you gotta have still crave it for some reason, you know? Fresh popcorn out of the microwave. Damn, I should have bought myself a snack or something, but maybe I shouldn't have, because I need to talk instead of stuffing myself, if you know what I mean. 2 minutes left of the session. Not long now, folks, before the main event. And not to take away from the spectacle, but turn 1 in Hockenheim is always a disaster for some reason, and at least in recent times. So let's hope that everyone can keep it clean and nobody dies of death, painfully. Alright, stay tuned, I'll be back in a second. So something to keep in mind is that John Janczek is, in practice, he set the second fastest lap time, but just couldn't reproduce something just as fast in qualifying. So while he's down the grid order, he does have the potential for incredibly fast pace. Should he find it, and during the race distance, he'll give him an incredible advantage over the cars in front. So, along with Andy Darnell, John Janczek might be another one to keep an eye on. So if you've just joined us, welcome to the PHSR BMW M235i Championship. We are at the 4th round at Hockenheim National, and our 2 usual dominators of the series are absent today between Mihai Neg and Henrik Andreasen, so we have a fair shot, even shot, relatively, for the win tonight between Melvin Brandt and Antonio Costa. According to qualifying, anyone can shoot out of the woodwork and take the cup for themselves, but I guess we'll see that now very shortly as all the cars form up. My name is Michael Shoot, and we are glad to have you here for another stream as the race is almost underway, as all the cars are lining up on the grid. Just last bits and pieces, last tweaks to fuel, just to make sure they don't stall out. It's the worst feeling ever, running out of fuel. As Photosystiglu and Andy Darnell flashed their headlights. You can see them on the grid. Very excited to get underway here tonight. And now the lights are ahead of the drivers, with Melvin Brandt up in first and Antonio Costa beside him on second. The lights are going to go out now. They are green, and Antonio Costa is going to try to maintain an advantage over Melvin Brandt, but if Brandt's got the better start, he's going to be able to get ahead and maintain his pole position. Andy Darnell is going to be side by side with Mil McCone, and Matthew is going to have to defend from Matty Renian in a second. Darken out onto his right hand side, and Photosystiglu, I believe, has crashed out of it. Someone's wrecked him. And that looks like a very bad dose of engine damage for the Greek driver, unfortunately. But everyone else is continuing. Matty Renian has lost a position that Andy Darnell has gained off the start. They're all now single file going into the next corners. Into the cutoff point where Hockenheim becomes the national layout. The hairpin from the Grand Prix layout is cut off. John Janczek is going to be wanting to get a piece of Matty Renian's position. Keeping it close indeed in the opening stages of this race, but consistency is going to be key throughout this whole thing. 15 minutes is a total race distance, and we're just about 13 and a half minutes left to go as we round off the first lap. And it's going to be Melvin Brandt leading from pole with Antonio Costa in second, and Matty Renian almost getting very squirrely there, and it's going to be very bad. for him, but very good for John Janchek. He's going to be getting a bit of overspeed, and there's a plethora of cars going off at the back of the grid. Soon the gravel trap is consistent of Antonio Fountain, Chris Willems, so Braniak up in there as well, very close to that. And unfortunately, Fotosysiglu is retired. I imagine the stewards will have a very strong word about that later on, but back to the matters at hand, we have a top 5 consisting of Melvin Brandt, who's been leading from pole, Antonio Costa, who's starting to drop back and might be under threat from Will McCone very, very shortly, and Andy Darnell in 4th, watching it all unfold in front of him and getting away from Matty Renian, who was quick in qualifying, but just isn't as consistent as a driver like Andy. Just like I predicted. So John Janchek is chasing down Matty Renian in 5th. John is 6th, I should elaborate. I didn't make that very clear, did I? But John's within striking distance if anyone ahead of him were to make a mistake. So the 2 cars ahead, Antonio Costa versus Melvin Brandt, they're touching a little bit, giving a small bit of a bump draft to try and get away from Will McCone, but it's going to be in vain because he's in the draft now and nothing can stop him on the straights. He's going to have to get away and make time in the corners now. Because Will McCone's in striking distance now of Antonio Costa and Melvin Brandt. He's going to be getting hardware anyway, I'd imagine, but unless something bad happens here, they're touching very, very much, I'd imagine. Tons of nudges here and there from Antonio Costa and onto Melvin Brandt. So you can tell that Antonio's slightly faster, but he needs to find an open door from Melvin Brandt. And Will McCone has gotten a lot closer now. He's going to be trying to make a move very soon with Antonio. Antonio's going to be wanting to make this move very, very soon, if he can. First, second, and third, it's a 3-car scrap for the win. 10 minutes to go, 5 has passed. And all 3 drivers don't seem to budge. They're all getting very close, but they all need an open door to get a move done. And they're all seeming to pull off a defensive masterclass on each other. But the more they trip each other up, the more Andy Darnell can catch up in P4. He's watching the battle unfold in front of him. As the gap gets a little bit bigger, Melvin is starting to build a small gap to Antonio. And someone else who's getting close to a move is John Janchek. He's starting to catch Renian a lot more now. Renian, it just seems to be getting a lot poorer exits. And that's where John seems to be getting a lot more the speed on him. So now we're having a look at Hiri Kretachville following Jeff Beekett. Here he's in P8 at the minute. And he's around 8/10ths off of Jeff Beekett in front of him, and the gap is forming between him and Jeff. So Hiri's going to have to pull something out of his hat if he wants to try and improve his position. In the mid stages of this race, we've got 8 minutes left to go in half. And the battle between John Janchek and Matty Renian simply cannot be ignored. They're bumper to bumper going through the last sector. It'll be the beginning of lap 5, and they have been battling non-stop for 3 laps. position still hasn't shifted up the top 3. Antonio's still trying to find a way past Melvin, but it might be... Melvin just seems to have that consistency on Antonio and Will. But the one disadvantage he does have to Antonio and Will is that Antonio and Will have the draft and Melvin doesn't, so if he wants to make a gap, he has to do it on cornering time, and that's going to be John Janczyk going through to take the position 5 from Matti Rainion as he goes wide. Capitalising on the mistakes, as a good driver should. And that's Will McCone going off at the track. He loses third position, and then Andy Darnell takes the third position. Will must have had a lapse of concentration somewhere. He's 7 minutes. He's just a little under half race distance to get that third position back from Andy Darnell. Qualifying laps is not what he needs, Will McCone, to get back into the position for some hardware here tonight for P3. But now that he's dropped back slightly, now he's going to be under attack very shortly from John Janczyk, if he doesn't pick up the pace very soon. On the beginning of lap 6, 6.5 minutes left to go. Will needs to hustle now more than ever if he wants to catch Andy now. 3 seconds ahead of him. No, 1 second ahead of him. That's 3 seconds is the... Oh, that's someone off. That's Manfred Mametek. That's Urbaniak. Thomas Urbaniak in P12 has lost is losing positions to cars around him. Spun off the track. Fortunately, he's going again, so he's no longer an obstacle. But that was a very big moment, and almost ended a few drivers' races, so thankfully he's back under control. John Janczyk is getting closer to Will McCone. Maybe Will's incurred damage to his suspension somewhere along the line because he's slowing right down. Either that or John Janczyk is getting faster. He's had a eureka effect in the closing stages of this race, and he's got the pace he needs to catch Will McCone at his weakest. Let's see what he has to offer going into lap 7 of this race. It's still a 1v1 versus Melvin Brandt and Antonio Costa in second, deciding the battle for the win. They're both incredibly quick, but I can imagine that the slipstream that Antonio's getting is playing a massive role in staying close to the Swedish driver. Just trying to observe the racing line between Antonio Costa and Melvin Brandt. Like, Melvin seems to be carrying a lot more speed into the corner and incurring less of his traction control, but Antonio seems to be getting and prioritizing his exits a lot more and going slightly wider than Melvin is. But the puzzling thing is that nothing seems to be faster than the other. They remain incredibly close. Will McCone is starting to break away from John Janczyk, and he's only half a second off of Andy Darnell in third. He's got 3.5 minutes left to go. It's roughly 3 more laps to get past Andy Darnell and try to secure third place. Antonio's getting a lot more slipstream now, more than ever, on Melvin Brandt. Into the heavy braking zone of turn 2. And as Will McCone hits the curb, another curb, on the corner entry on the apex of turn 2, as he's trying to get the best lines he can on Andy Darnell. He's running out of time to secure third place. And maybe the pressure is getting to him. He needs to keep it calm and keep it smooth. So now we see Will McCone under serious pressure to pull something out of his hat in the closing stages of the race. Two and a half minutes left to go into the sweeping left-hander. Camber's your best friend in that corner. You want to hug the inside. And that's been done absolutely gracefully into the sweeping right-hander. Going onto the start-finish straight. It's all about prioritizing your exit here. Taking as much curb as not taking too much. Has to be a fine balance here. So it's still 1-on-1. Antonio Costa versus Melvin Brandt for the win here. There's roughly 2 laps left in it for this race to be decided. And Will McCone's getting ever so closer to Andy Darnell. He's half a second, almost 6/10 back on Andy Darnell. It's fluctuating, but so is John Janchik on Will McCone. He might be getting into a position to make a move if he gets held back. If Will gets held back by Andy by any in any way, shape or form, he might be able to capitalize on that and get a P4 finish. But right now we're playing the waiting game. It's a game of patience. And there's going to be 1 lap left in this race. This is going to be the last lap coming up. And John is now half a second back on Will McCone. He needs 1 more good lap, 1 more quali lap. And maybe he has a chance in getting fourth position from the British driver. Anything is possible now. Final lap, I believe. So now John is now bumper to bumper with Will McCone. Really coming alive in the final stages of the race. And in 11th place, Tonio Phantom has gone off. He spun round on the track. He's somewhere stationary. I'm not sure what corner. But that was the final corner onto the run to the straight. There's nothing to worry about. Antonio's starting to drop back majorly from Melvin Brandt. He's putting in an absolute god lap, Melvin Brandt, to prove absolutely why he is worthy of the gold medal here tonight. Just 1 more sector and he's got it. 1 more good sector, that's what all these guys need. And it appears that John Janchik has lost the position to Matti Rainian once again. He's managed to make a resurgence now. It has been 10 laps of utter domination from the Swedish driver, and he's the rightful owner of the gold medal here tonight. He is won in Hockenheim National. Melvin Brandt, everyone, that's your race winner, with Antonio Costa giving a very good effort for second, and they're going side by side across the line in the midfield, and Renian just got Janchik at the line for P5, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Antonio Costa did a very, very good job at mounting an attack for first place. He's challenged him all race long for all 10 of those laps. From lights out to checker flag, he's put in a very good effort. And Andy Darnell Coming in with the consistency, takes the final podium spot. A very good performance from him indeed. Will McCann, unfortunately, making a few too many mistakes. So lose out to Andy Darnell and few little laps left to catch him back up. Matti Raikkonen comes back to P5, jumping John Janczyk for that position, and Janczyk is now back to where he started in P6. Once upon a time fighting for P4. And Jeff Eckert in 7th, Yuri Kotatchville in 9th, Bruno Machado in 9th, gaining 5 positions over the course of the race, and Manfred Mamatek closing off the top 10. This was an exciting race, if I've ever seen one, and I should mention that Antonio Costa, in 2nd place, has the fastest lap by almost 1/10 of a second over Melbourne.
You're back.
Alright, sorry for the technical difficulties, folks. We were having a little bit of microphone trouble. Sorry for the crackling that you may have heard on stream. My bad. This should be sorted now for the post-race interviews. This was a very incredible race, and I can't wait to ask. So, sorry for the technical difficulties, folks. This is like my 3rd time saying this. Yeah, like, I was under the false impression that this was going to be a one-race deal, because my UI told me so, that it was only a single race, and there was nothing afterwards. It lied to me. It was fake news. So I'd imagine, like, as per usual, there's going to be a small intermission for everyone to get their bearings again, and just to cool down from the sprint race we just had. But from that race alone, there's already a lot of questions that I'd love to ask the certain drivers. Like, that was an incredible performance from Melvin Brandt, let's just say. So there's not much why is it Andy, there might be a small bit of an issue. Grant. Alright. Technology, am I right? Sorry for all the intermissions and all the technical difficulties, but I should be back for real this time. Definitely, definitely. Definitely? Definitely. Alright, 60 seconds left to go with intermission, and we'll be back racing for a half an hour feature race this evening. Alright. We are mere moments away from the beginning of half an hour of constant running here at Hockenheim National for race 2 of the BMW of the Hockenheim round. I mean, this is actually the round 4 of the M235i championship. If you've just joined us, you just missed an incredible sprint, but fear not, because we're about to find an even better race, very likely, in the form of a half an hour feature. This is going to be very close thanks to the reverse grid with Matty Renian out in front alongside Janček up ahead. I recognise the livery. Janček on pole with Will McCone in third and Andy Darnell fourth. Antonio Costa fifth and Muffin Brown sixth. That's the reverse grid change, and half an hour we are underway with John Janček storming ahead to take the lead, with Andy Darnell getting a fire start ahead of Matty Renian. He's going to be on the inside now. He's going to be bashing side by side for the lead, for second place here, and he appears to get ahead. It's going to be 3 wide going into turn 2. Will McCone in the centre and Antonio Costa on the right hand side. People are going to be turning in on him. He's going to have to get out of the way. People are going to have to yield. Still 2 wide, and Matty Renian has spun off in sector 1. He's going to be all across the track as everyone scrambles to avoid him, and that is an absolute mountain he's left himself to climb now for these 29 minutes remaining. From P5 to P14. Let's see how he will recover now. So Andy Darnell isn't our only a very fast starter here tonight. There's Melvin Brandt behind him, who's gained 3 positions now from P6 on the grid. He started 6th because he won the sprint race, so that dictates him to be put farther back in the reverse grid than many would. Will now has another chance at some hardware here tonight, in the form of maybe a race win if he plays his cards right, but now he has to get past Melvin Brandt, our last race winner, Andy Darnell in second, and John Janček in first place, who leads the field into lap 2. We're starting to see a few gaps form, but we're starting to see another pair of 3-car trains for first, second, and third, and another one for fourth, fifth, and sixth, as the rest of the midfield starts to join them. They're side by side now in the midfield. It's going to be Jiri Crotchville versus Jeff Eakett. Jiri's on the outside and Eakett's on the inside defending, and it looks like he's going to keep the position now for now. But it looks like Jiri's got the speed on Jeff Eakett now. Going slightly wide there. I believe that's Will McCone in P4. In the same place. Like around the same area he did almost lose the car last race, I'd imagine. Diving down the inside, that was a bit optimistic from Jiri. He doesn't end up making it happen, but I'd watch where I put my bumper if I were you, Jiri, now. There's 26 minutes left in this race, and there's nothing to be won here. In the first 5 minutes, he's on the inside now, Jeff Eakett, after a small bit of contact on the final corners, the sweeping right-hander. And Jiri swipes in to take the position now. So now he has upgraded himself to P7. As Antonio goes into the inside of Will McCone. But now he's on the outside. He's going to have to try maybe inch his way alongside. If he can keep this, he's going to be able to make an attack on the next corner, but he's not going to be far enough ahead. Or is he? He might be able. He's still there. just about side by side. Will McCone versus Antonio Costa, and then Costa gets ahead by a slim margin, but then there's Will getting ahead by the next corner on this inside. But now Antonio Costa's on the inside, and there's a small bit of contact with him and Bruno Machado, who's gained 3 positions from 9th, and that's a bright red car of Chris Willems in the back, 13th. Slide off track. Acosta is hot on the heels of Will McCone, but that's without a doubt. But the 3-car train remains now, consisting of John Janchik in first, Andy Darnell in second, and Melvin Brandt in third, making a bit of a bid for a second win here tonight. I think that will fit the bill. Jeff Eaket's now fighting with Fotis Isoglu now for P7. Fotis was wrecked out of the last race very early on the first lap. After turn 1, in fact, so he's back racing now if you're wondering where he went. And unfortunately, Kiri Kotochville has DNF'd. I'm not sure what happened to him. I didn't see him on my race monitor. But I'm sure there's going to be more information on the Discord. I'll have a check shortly, but Andy Darnell's having a fight now with Melvin Brandt, who got past him now for P2. But now he's going to let the consistency do all the work now for the next 23 minutes. But Melvin has his eyes on the prize now. He's want to be fighting now with Jan Janchik for the first position. Jan's making himself at the centre of the track, wide and robust, but fair, trying to cut the slipstream. And he gets the overspeed on turn 1. Janchik's going to be under attack for the podium. We're side by side going into turn 2. Janchik on the inside. And it's going to be Melvin Brandt who gets ahead just slightly. But they're still side by side going onto the straight. But the thing is, Janchik's on the outside now of that sweeping left-hander. But what's question is if he's going to still be there when he heads to the braking zone. They're still side by side, and Janchik is inching ahead just slightly. Nothing in it between Melvin Brandt and Jan Janchik. And it appears that Jan is just keeping him at bay, just for one more lap. This is what he's going to have to do for the next 22 minutes, folks, if he wants this race win. And Andy now is mounting an attack on John Janchik. Janchik's lost the position, actually. He's lost first place. He's fighting with Andy now. What he can really do in these M2s when the aliens aren't congesting the racetrack and stealing his podium spots. Let's see what he can do now. 21 minutes to go. This is the beginning of lap 6. The last race was 10 laps long. This is going to be 20 laps, if my maths are remotely anywhere near to being correct, which they're usually not. I'll just give a precaution. Antonio's fighting Andy now for the final podium spot. He's caught up to him now. And you can see, I didn't realise Will McCone has damage. You can see it on the front bumper. That engine bay is absolutely knackered. I look at the state of that, you can see Will McCone's the black and yellow. That can't help. That can't be helping the British driver, not at all. But he's still making the car go relatively quick. He's still sticking with the front pack as Melvin Brandt streaks away into the sunset, 1 second ahead of Jan. Very shortly, this might turn into a 4-car battle for 2 podium spots. This is a 5-car train, with 3 more to come. Jan's certainly in a great spot, but Andy's keeping him on his toes, very certainly. And Andy needs to watch himself, though, because he gets very squarely onto the exit of turn 2, as Antonio Costa wants to take this final podium spot. It's on the outside, on the defensive. And further back in the midfield is Jeff Eakett versus Fotis Isoglu. Eakett just isn't close enough to mount an attack on Fotis just yet, but he's maintaining very close distance to the Greek driver, so it's not out of the question he'll strike again next lap, or even try to, if nothing goes wrong. So, just a little bit of a note on Heary. He ended up getting actually got kicked from the server. It was for his ping was too high, unfortunately, and if your ping is too high, if your internet connection is too dodgy, unfortunately you're auto kicked from the server, because that can make you very, very unpredictable to other drivers around you, and it can cause a very big accident. It has in the past. Fotis Isoglu is keeping it close with Bruno Machado up in front. There's Fotis on the inside of Bruno Machado. Maybe he doesn't have enough speed just to get it done. Machado's getting up ahead, but he's certainly gotten a bit of a wake-up call. But maybe that might have backfired a little, because Jeff Eakett's coming up behind him in P8. He wants to take the position. He's got the overspeed. But Fotis just might defend, but he's maybe too late. Eakett might go through here. Just couldn't make it work. It's going to be Fotis keeping the position, but now he needs to keep his sights trained on Bruno Machado, while simultaneously keeping his eyes in the rearview mirror to keep himself safe from Jeff Eakett in 8th. And I am absolutely amazed how Will McCone's hauling that damaged M235i through the camber-filled turns of Hockenheim. Look at the state of it. Looks like he's starting to catch up to Antonio Costa there. Fotis takes the grass slightly. He doesn't trying to get the tightest line he can. This is for P6 now. This is going to be for very good points in the championship. Now Antonio's met back up with Andy Darnell. He's going to try to mount an offensive on him as soon as he can. Fotis is still keeping to the right-hand side of that of the national hairpin. Like, he's really... Oh, he's spun off! He's hit Bruno Machado, and he's beached himself on the curb, I think. and other drivers are going to be scrambling to try and avoid him. The camera's gone off him now. I don't know what happened to him. We're back to the fight of Antonio Costa versus Will McCone versus Andy Darnell. But that cannot be good for Fotis. He's managed to scramble back to P8. He's gotten going again. But now he's gotten himself a very big mountain to climb to catch Machado again. Like, he's lost 2 positions there. He's 5 seconds away from Matti Raikkonen in front of him, and a further 7 seconds from Bruno Machado in total, from where he was. That damage surely isn't stopping Will McCone in 5th place. Handling the back of Antonio Costa, putting him under pressure, as Antonio tries to make the move for Andy Darnell happen as soon as he can. Having Will McCone behind you is like walking on hot coals. You need to get off it. You need to try get out of there as soon as you can. You need to make the move happen. So Antonio's getting closer to Andy Darnell. But I feel like it's going to be a close and fair fight. We're at half race distance now. 14 minutes left to go at lap 10. And here's to another 10 laps. So the racing is starting to go single file now, so I should mention, not anymore actually, because back of the pack, Thomas Urbaniak versus Manfred Mamitek, and the 2 white and blue cars with the blue stripe at the back. They're having a bit of a dogfight at the back. And it appears that Antonio Costa has just about gotten the move done on Andy Darnell. And he's got a slight overspeed. He might try to get the counter-attack. Going down on the inside. He's there. On the inside of the corner versus Antonio Costa. Will McCone at the back of it all, watching it all unfold. Andy's on the racing line. He's on the better line than Antonio anyway. But here comes Will McCone on his left-hand side. And Andy's on the inside line. But it appears that Will McCone's getting a little bit more grip than Andy. He's going to have to go side by side. And what an incredible performance. Despite the damaged car, Will McCone goes through to take 4th, and Andy Darnell is lost out in 5th. 12.5 minutes to go, so this can easily change at the blink of an eye. And we begin lap 12 of this 20-lap race. Into turn 1. Andy's got the slipstream on Will McCone now. They both have a very good pace on each other. And it seems that the only difference may be the tow that they're getting, so it may prove to be a very big advantage. So let's not forget about the effort made from Melvin Brandt versus John Janchik. They're both at front. Well, I might have to put a pin in that for a second because Matti Raikkonen from P5 to P14 back to P7. He's mounting in the attack on Bruno Machado, and it looks like he might get the position very shortly. And that's Tommaso Barniak, spun off in Sector 2. He's off the track. And he appears he's going again. Heredia has been on a charge all race. Ever since lap 1, since he got spun out, or he spun off by himself. I'm still not sure what happened there. There's not exactly any race replay I can check right now, or this minute. But Matty's been on a charge, and it looks like for a solid 20 minutes he's been pushing nothing but qualifying laps, and he's been good enough to get him where he is now. This is a solid points finish. But he's not content with a solid points finish. He wants something greater. He wants something bigger. But can he get to the podium spots in less than 10 minutes to go? As Matty overtakes Bruno Machado for P6, and that's another step, another piece of the puzzle to a fairy tale ending after a horrific start for Matty Rennion. It's 10 minutes to go. And we're starting to see a gap form between Bruno Machado and Matty Rennion. Right now, the gap between Matty Rennion and Andy Darnell is just over 3 seconds. But I can imagine that, if Matty puts his head to it, he can accomplish a little bit of a faster pace than Andy and maybe mount an attack for P5. And now we see Bruno struggling to keep up with the Finn. Now we're back to Antonio Costa. Getting right back to it for second place now. This is going to be trying to chase down John Janchik, who's been keeping very good pace actually with Melvin Brandt. Just only after 20 minutes of this half an hour race, he's only 2 seconds off of Melvin Brandt. He's still within relative proximity. But Jan might have to pick up the pace a little bit because now Costa's storming up behind him. And I am still amazed to see Will McCone zipping along in his in that much damage of a car. Must be all the body panels and none of the suspension, thankfully. But let's keep in mind, right, that in these cars the engine's typically at the front. So if you have a frontal, like a head-on collision like Will has, like, there was a very big chance that they could have just taken out his engine and just knocked him out completely. But it appears that Will's gotten incredibly lucky, and not just that, not just that it drives full stop, it actually goes quick, you know? Like, he's keeping very good pace in P4 for what he's driving. So right now, the fastest lap of the race belongs to Melvin Brandt. He's done a 135.837, and nobody else. And there's only one other person who's gone into the 135s, which is Bruno. No, yeah, Matty Rennion on this charge in the midfield, and even then, he's only 1/10 behind. So God knows what he would have been able to accomplish if he hadn't been spun out. one thing's for certain, he's on a very, very excellent recovery drive. So here comes Antonio Costa. He's keeping it close with John Janczyk. A sweeping left-hander of turn 3. Antonio's starting to feel the magnet-like effect of the slipstream as he's getting closer and closer to John Janczyk. This is going to be the battle for second now. 5 minutes to go. There's roughly 3-4 laps left in that. Surely these drivers must be getting exhausted, but they don't seem to be slowing down one bit. At least for the case of first, second, and third. Costa's keeping the pressure on Janczyk. It should be mentioned that I'll see what their lap times are just now. We'll see. Antonio Costa's been posting invalid laps. He's cooking the track for that lap and the past one. But we can see Janczyk doing a 1:36.3, so that's a very good time. That's keeping him up there. But Antonio seems to have a faster line round on top of slipstream. Let's remember. 3.5 minutes left to go. And the fate of the final 2 podium spots is largely undecided here. Okay, now they're essentially bumper to bumper. They're side by side now going into the last sector. Antonio Costa versus Janczyk on the inside. Janczyk seems to keep the position, but he's gone wide, totally wide, and Antonio Costa swoops in to take second, and now Janczyk needs to keep on his toes, because now Will McCone with the damaged car is now right behind him, hawking him down for that final trophy. And by God, Janczyk will not let that happen so easily. He won't give that up without a fight. He won't let him. On the second to last corners, they sweep around. And now the complexion of this race has now changed for Jan Janczyk, who has kept it so consistent, but now is starting to finally crack under the half an hour long of pressure. Here comes Will McCone getting the overspeed on this magnetic-like slipstream. On the outside goes Will McCone, and this is hell on earth for Janczyk. He had this wrapped up, he had this in the bag, but one mistake at the end of it is more than enough to end it all. Janczyk is not over that for him. He's keeping up with Will McCone there for the final podium spot. He's half a second behind. But now here's the kicker. After they complete this lap, there's gonna be one more lap to decide who goes where on the grid spot, in the not grid spots, the finishing positions here. So Jan might very well have a very big chance to catch Will McCone here in the closing stages of this race, the final lap pass. And it all begins at the start-finish straight with 50 seconds to go. Janček getting the slipstream that others have been using against him for all race long. Janček slightly deviates offline, but he isn't in a position to make an attack on Will McCone. But Will McCone loses a little bit of speed there. He's been grabbed behind the legs by his traction control settings, and Janček's starting to get closer and closer between that and slipstream. Might be a move. Not quite, he's not close enough, but he's gaining time everywhere, on every corner. They're side by side going onto the exit of the hairpin. On Janček's on the outside of this line. They're both on the racing line now. This has been fought tooth to nail. A final push for hardware in the final sector of the race. Janček versus Will McCone. On the inside goes Janček. They're side by side. Yeah, Will McCone is the inside of the next corner. Janček has to pull out. He's going to use the camber to get a better exit. Goes self-preservation, keeps him back now. And they're smashing us into the back of Will McCone. They doesn't spin him out, but he's lost them both speed. And this might have very well cost him. He wasn't expecting that very side by side with Photosystically and Bruno Machado side by side, and Machado seems to get him at the line very last second. As Mametek comes home in 10th. But that could have turned out very differently. That could have turned out very differently if Jan had interpreted the sudden loss of speed from Will McCone. But that was a battle fought to the last second, and that's what I really enjoy about racing. And that really is what best represents this championship, all championship long. Fights like this makes motorsport worth watching, isn't it? So Milton Brandt is your winner for the second time tonight. A double crown with the fastest lap this time, with a 1:35.8, and Antonio couldn't get the fastest lap this time. He couldn't break into 1:35. He's in second, and Will McCone jumped Janček on the last lap for fourth, and Andy Darnell watched it all happen in fifth, with Renian charging back from 14th at the back of the grid, back to 6th in the span of half an hour. Very good job from Matty Renian. With 7th place is Bruno Machado, and Photosystically in 8th, Jeff Eakett in 9th, and Mametek rounds off your 10th, your P10 finisher. So don't go anywhere, because we're about to do some post-race interviews with a few... oh yeah, if you've watched any of our streams before, you'll probably know the drill by now, but we tend to interview our drivers from time to time. And I've got some very good questions ready up for the crowd here today. So in a few moments, I'll begin talking to people, but in the meantime, I'm just going to take like a 30-second break to just collect myself. I have a lump in my throat. Did I say 30 seconds? I meant 5. Classic maths from me. But in any case, interviews are now on. So we've got a lot of people to get through, so I'd love to... Andy Darnell, would you like to say your piece on today's races?
Hi, Michael. That was some great racing there, great fun.
Yeah, tooth and nail to the last moments. So how I'm trying to think back to race 1. You had a very, very eventful race start. You managed to jump Renian, and you fought him for a very good portion of race 1.
Yeah, I had a pretty good start. I did in both races, but in race 2 I had a little off into the gravel trap on Mobile 1, so I had to concede the battle. But I'm happy with 3rd and 5th in both races.
Right.
Oh.
Were you going to say something? Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. It's a brilliant series. I didn't expect to be this high, but I'm very happy. And thank you everybody that attended.
Right. So of course, Andy, you're in the mix and the feature race an awful lot. You're right up there with Antonio Costa and Janček as well. So, how's the? Sorry, I don't have a really relevant question for you this time, Andy. I'm
The answer to the
sorry.
question, your answer to what I think you're asking is it was incredibly clean racing. It was amazing. Every person up front was absolutely immaculate driving. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Andy. Is there everything you'd like to say, or?
Yeah, no, that's all for me. You got a queue, so I'll let you go on to the next one. Thanks again, everyone that attended.
All right. Thank you, Andy. Have a good night. So I suppose next up, we'll hear from a man who very nearly got a very good glory, but just lost it all after a very, very. He was consistent for 29 minutes, and in the final 1 minute of the race, he lost it all. It's going to be none other than Jan Janšik, if you'd like.
Hey Michael, how are you?
Hey there, Jan. So,
This was one hell of a race again, like last time. In the first race, I tried not a desperate move on Will McCone, but I tried to outbrake him into T2 and I made a mess of it. Then I went too wide into T3 and it was all over. That was a stupid mistake from me. That cost me dearly, but it gave me a nice start in race 2. That was, wow. I was sweating bullets like past half the race. It was insane. In the first laps, Andy was kind of getting up close and personal with my behind. He wanted a piece of it, so he bumped me once or twice, but I managed to hold him off for a while.
Robinson is racing.
Yeah, I know you just wanted a piece of my ass. Never mind that. Then after half the race, I started feeling the wear, and I was not ready for it. I did not practice with full race length. So I started making more mistakes into T1 and other places. I held pretty good pace, I think, overall, considering everything. Well, Melvin, of course, got to P1 and completely dominated. And I started losing steam like a third of the race remaining, trying to just hold on. I was giving it all I had, trying to keep everybody behind me, but Will finally got a good run on me and managed to get me, and I could not get him back. Almost got him in the last lap, but it wasn't enough. But amazing racing. Everybody was very clean. It was super great. Thank you for commenting again.
well, that's all, Jan.
Do you have any questions for me? I was talking too much.
Certainly. I was just going to ask you about like that final corner with you and Will. It looked like that you guys actually collided. Suddenly Will had brakes a little bit more stronger than you anticipated.
I slightly touched him into the final double right on the entry. I did not expect him to brake so much, but this car is pretty easy to hold on to if you know what you're doing, and it didn't upset him. It was a close race.
All right, Jan, you've had a very, very good race tonight, and
thank you. I was sweating bullets. I need to go lie down again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bye.
All right. We'll see you in a bit. Okay, Hiri, would you like to say something? about your race. Of course, you had. Of course, in race 2, you had disconnected from ping.
Yeah, I don't know. The ping was very high overall in race 1 and race 2. In race 1, I somehow finished on P8, I think.
Yeah,
But
just
then
please take us. I didn't see a lot of you on the screen. Actually, it was all up on the podium. So please do tell us about your race and race 1.
oh, wait, you cut me out, Michael. I think
Hello.
I am here.
Yeah, tell us about your first. Tell us about race 1. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, race 1, I think it feels like I had on the straight after turn 1. I think I had like collision with Fotis, but I'm not sure if but probably it was netcode because I didn't feel it almost. Like I think I didn't feel it or I didn't feel it at all because I felt like few touches, but then he went sideways into the wall, out of nowhere basically. Then rest of the race 1, I was fighting with George Ecott.
Yeah, you and Nikos were very close all race.
And that continued in race 2, but Fortis joined it then, and then boom, the game crash happened. Sorry, the disconnect happened.
Yeah, that was very unfortunate. Do you think you could have done well in the feature if you hadn't disconnected?
Yeah, maybe it could be top 8 as well.
Alright, well, hopefully you have better luck for the next race. Is there anything else you'd like to say to the crowd, or...
Oh, that's it.
Alright, thank you for your time, Hiri. So that was Crit Touch Bill. He lost connection in race 2, if you remember. But now it's time to talk about we'll just now discuss domination with the Dominator himself of the day. Dominator of the day. The alliteration. I don't know. I tried to come up with something catchy, but I couldn't make it happen. Sorry, guys. But it's the man himself, Melvin Brandt. Welcome.
Yeah, thanks. Wow, that was some races.
Yeah, absolutely. From start to finish, you've absolutely dominated the whole thing.
Yeah,
How's
but
it
it
feel?
was close with Costa. Costa was really fast.
Yeah, I can imagine he had the fastest lap on you in race 1, but you managed to get away from him very well in race 2. So take us
Yeah,
through what you were thinking in race 1 when it was there was never more than half a second separating you.
yeah. Race 1 was intense whole way through. He was like half a second back all the time. I just placed my car in the middle of the track in every corner. Just tried to defend. Then in the last 2 laps, I saw him go a little bit slower down to 1 second. I just pushed, and eventually the checkered flag came, and I'm so glad.
Yeah, I know the feeling after a long stint. Well earned. So in terms of race 2, of course you had to fight to. Of course you weren't in first place for like there were most of the for the start of the race anyway. Like you had to cleave through the midfield first. So describe your race start because that was really interesting. I would have thought.
Oh yeah, the race start was chaos. It felt like out of turn 1 we was 4 wide into turn 2. Somehow I managed to get out of turn 2 in the third, and had Andy and Yannick right in front of me. And then I think lap 3 or 4 I got past Darnell, and then I tried to go for Jansik, and Jansik made a little bit mistake into the stadium, I think it was, to the fast right-hander, and I just
Yeah,
cut
he went
inside,
wide.
and then I just tried to pull away. Did some small mistakes, did one big mistake, and Yannick caught up again. Then I just set the fastest lap and drove away. Was a little bit scared of Costa the whole race because I knew he was fast. Saw him get past Andy, and then saw him get past Jan, and I thought, oh no, now he's coming. But
I mean, like, would you
eventually,
be surprised that Antonio never got into the 35s during race 2?
oh, he didn't. I thought he was going really fast because I saw him gaining like 1 second one lap.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, he just never. He probably would have got really close, but he never actually got into 35s. The only other person who got into 35s was Renian, who got 35.9, but he got 35.8, the fastest lap in the second race. So well done for fastest lap as well.
Thanks.
But in any case, you had a very, very good race. 2 races here tonight. Is there anything else you'd like to say or mention to anyone? Or
I just want to race Neg, Andreasen, and Gunther again. Just want to see where I can stand to those guys.
yeah, I'm sure they'll be back next round.
Yeah,
After
I think
business
I'm
as
in the
usual.
championship lead now because they didn't race, right?
We'll have to check that actually. We'll see.
Yeah.
But anyway, like, thank you so much for your time, Melvin. Have a very good evening. Well done.
Thanks.
And that was Melvin Brandt, our double race winner for tonight. And last but not least, we'll have Fotis Isoglu, who was requested to speak last. He was wrecked at the start of race 1, unfortunately. But hopefully we'll hear more from him now. Welcome, Fotis.
Hi, Michael.
Hey there, Fotis. So, it appears that you returned at turn 1 in the race 1. What happened?
Before the turn one, I have contacts with Yuri. He came towards to me, not having knowledge of his surroundings. And after corner one, we have a minor touch. I try to stay on track. It at center of the car. I try to make correction with the wheel to keep it on track and not to the grass. We touch again. I make again correction to not go off track and onto the grass. We touch again and send me onto the wall and blow on the engine.
Yeah, that was very unfortunate. Your race 2 went a lot better, it appears.
Until a moment I start from last. I managed to fighting for 6th position, and then a car from behind hit me and make me spun. I think in Mercedes corner. I lost 2 position, a lot of time there, around 10 seconds. But I recover, I fight, and manage to fight until the last corner for 6th or 5th position, 6 I think, or 7. I don't remember. I was fighting for a position until the last corner, but yeah, it was enjoyable to fight to recover from the back of the grid.
Yeah, very, very well done, Fotis. Like, that
Thank
wasn't
you.
the easiest place to come back from, but I'd be proud of that. Well done for tonight.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, do you reckon that? So, do you have anything else you'd have to say to everyone else? You're the final guy. We have.
First of all, thank you for your effort and time to commentate yet again. And I hope to have more responsible and clean racing to the future, and I hope for the viewers at least to enjoy the race.
All right. I think. Thank you so much for your time, Fotis.
Yeah, thank you. Congratulations to the podium winners also.
All right. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right. So that was Fotis Isoglu, ladies and gentlemen. Didn't have the best luck, but he fought against the odds, and he got himself a very nice and respectable finish. So, props to him. So, that's everyone who came to get interviewed. So, I suppose obviously if I suppose this is the part of the stream where I say this is the part of the stream that I leave my personal thoughts, and I always botch it up. And this is where I always ad lib, and some heinous or horrendous reason, but it's tradition at this point. So here we go. I think it was a really successful race. It was really entertaining, in my opinion. There was a non-stop battle for first place, and no shortage of action, and everywhere else when there was a shortage up front, on the rare occasions. So I think all the drivers did very, very well on this occasion. And we're staged to have an even better one next time around, next week, I believe. So stick around for next week when we are racing at
It's every 2 weeks.
damn. Oh damn! Every 2 weeks. Yeah, join us in 2 weeks for the next round of I don't know where, because the race calendar doesn't extend to 2 weeks; it only extends to one. So sorry to leave you hanging,
It is
but
Portimao, Michael.
Portimao. Thank you very much, Focus. Join us for Portimao in the next 2 weeks, and we'll hope to see you there for more clean racing and stuff. Thank you for watching. I believe I'm done. That was horrible.